Are you saying no British citizens will feel any pain from Reform UK's austerity?
Well, our message to the British people, Victoria, is this: we are closing in on £3 trillion of national debt.
Please, could you answer my question?
Well,
are you saying no British people will feel
Victoria,
pain from
we are on the
Reform's
side of the
austerity?
people who set their alarm clocks before they go to bed and rise
that
early in the
mean?
morning.
What does that even
people
mean?
People who work, Victoria, and people who, I think, quite rightly look at the size of the state and look at how their taxpayer money is spent, where they don't feel safe, where the NHS is not there when they need it.
It sounds like you're saying if you're British and you set your alarm clock, you will not be affected by Reform UK's cuts.
Yeah, that's a reasonable reflection.
Today.
So in this clip, we are going to see Victoria Derbyshire absolutely grill Reform's Zie Yusuf, and we're going to see him consistently refuse to answer the question, fall apart on some questions, and just prove the reason as to why everybody should be looking at Reform and running in the complete opposite direction. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts towards the end.
Reform UK performed a huge policy U-turn by ditching most of the $90 billion in tax cuts they promised voters last year at the general election. Let's talk live to the party's head of policy, Zia Yusuf, who is here this evening. Thank you for talking to the Newsnight audience. When the Institute for Fiscal Studies said of your contract last year, your manifesto at the general election, your sums didn't add up, they were right, weren't they? And today you've proved it.
Well, Reform sadly did not win the last general election. Labour did. And what we have seen since then, sadly, we have a drunken sailor at the tiller of this great country, the ship of the United Kingdom.
You were drunken sailors, if I may. You were drunken sailors. 150 billion a year in spending cuts you promised, 50 billion increase in public spending a year, and 90 billion in tax cuts a year, which you've now ditched, which were fantasy economics, if you're being honest.
So the first thing to say about the contract with the people, the manifesto for the last election, what was not going to happen had we won the last general election was that all of those things would have been implemented immediately. And what we're saying today is, sadly, the Labour government is going to borrow £40 billion more than they originally committed to. According to Capital Economics, Rachel Reeves is going to raise taxes at the fastest rate of any Chancellor in 55 years.
I know, and really, so in the limited time that we have, I really want to
public finances have been wrecked by the Tories and Labour, and Reform are going to restore them.
OK, so you say. You said today you want to cut public spending first, were you to win the next election, with the aim eventually of being able to afford tax cuts for people. Last year, your contract was to cut public spending by £150 billion per year. Per year. Are you sticking to that figure?
We're going to materially reduce public spending. We're going to reduce the size of the state. Well, that's the work. Look, I'm the head of policy.
Sure.
And we've already got brilliant people working on this.
So what's
we've already announced tens of billions of pounds, Victoria.
What's the total figure per year?
It's going to be tens of billions of pounds. And
so is
that is the work that we're currently doing.
$100 billion?
But Victoria, we are in a position where the national deficit is 4% of GDP. National debt is closing in on £3 trillion, and the cost of servicing the interest payments on the debt, Victoria, are going to be £4,000 per household in the UK.
I'm not asking why.
By the end of this Parliament.
I'm not asking why you want to cut public spending.
So that's why
much.
Nigel Farage is taking, I believe Nigel will be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And if that happens, if that's the verdict that the British electorate decides to deliver, he is going to be the person who is sober about this, who is serious about this.
By how much, Mr Yusuf? You're head of policy. Nigel Farage believes there's going to be an election the year after next. How much, please tell voters, are you going to cut public spending by per year?
Well, as I said, we've already announced north of £25 billion of cuts in public spending.
Is that
We were going to give... Yeah, we've got more to come. There's going to be more to come in that regard. Okay. But the message today was a very clear one, which is, sadly, we have the Labour government that is borrowing far more than they committed to, raising taxes at a rate unseen in 55 years. And as a result of that, Victoria, people watching this programme, they are sick and tired of their taxes going up year after year after year to fund a bloated state that prioritises foreign citizens over UK citizens.
You now can't promise to cut taxes if you win.
Look, as we saw from Liz Truss, it's very easy to promise. If Reform truly was a populist party that would promise everything to everybody, we would have gone for a headline-grabbing set of tax cuts.
Well, what we're saying is
we cannot cut taxes credibly until we have the public finances under control.
Now, every voter watching knows, because they're Newsnight viewers and they lived through austerity in the 2010s, that saving tens of billions, and I appreciate you haven't given us a figure, but at least 25 billion, requires a lot more than a crackdown on a bit of waste and cutting some civil service jobs. Everyone knows it will almost certainly mean cuts to the quantity or quality of public services. Is that fair?
Not necessarily. So the numbers that we've already talked about, so for example, restricting UK, look, Reform believes, and Nigel believes, that UK welfare payments should only ever be paid to UK citizens. That will save at least 10 billion a year. That's just based on universal credit alone.
Right.
Then we can talk about deporting people who are here illegally rather than housing them at the cost of British taxpayers. That is 4 billion a year of savings.
Are you actually suggesting that there won't be any pain with this kind of austerity when it comes to public services?
We are talking about reducing the size of the state in order that we can allow people to keep more of the money that they earn. We are going to champion the people who set their alarm clocks in the evening before they go to bed and rise early to go to work.
What I'm actually asking you is a different thing. Are you telling voters there will be no pain with Reform UK's austerity?
No, I don't think that's a reasonable reflection of what we're saying. But what we are saying, first and foremost...
So who will feel the pain?
Well, again, let's start with foreign nationals. It is unacceptable.
No British citizens.
It is unacceptable.
No
it
British
is unacceptable.
citizens.
It is unacceptable that foreign nationals are able to claim universal credit, they're able to claim disability payments, they're able to get social housing. The majority of social housing in London,
I understand,
goes to foreign nationals.
I just want to be clear.
This is unknown in any other country in the world.
I understand. Are you saying no British citizens will feel any pain from Reform UK's austerity?
Well, our message to the British people, Victoria, is this: we are closing in on £3 trillion of national debt.
Please, could you answer my question?
Well,
are you saying no British people will feel
Victoria,
pain from
we are on the
Reform's
side
austerity?
of the people who set their alarm clocks before they go to bed and rise
that
early in the
mean?
morning.
What does that even
people
mean?
People who work, Victoria, and people who, I think, quite rightly look at the size of the state and look at how their taxpayer money is spent, where they don't feel safe, where the NHS is not there when they need it.
It sounds like you're saying if you're British and you set your alarm clock, you will not be affected by Reform UK's cuts.
Yeah, that's a reasonable reflection.
Really?
Yeah.
OK, fine. I'm glad we've finally got there. We've got that on record. Now, your party made big promises in local elections to cut waste in local councils, which you won control of back in May. The Reform leader of Kent County Council said Kent was the shop window through which everybody is going to see what a Reform government might look like. And she instructed everyone to cut wasteful spending. Let's see how that's going in Kent. Reform's cabinet member for adult social care in Kent told the FT last month the council, quote, is already down to the bare bones, and she thinks it likely you'll be raising Reform in Kent will be raising council tax next year by 5%. That is the maximum. When you promise savings, don't you think voters thought that would mean council tax coming down?
No, I don't, because I think voters understand that two things can be true at the same time. Kent County Council. So first of all, Reform councils, we control 10 councils as of 6 months ago. Reform councils have already identified hundreds of millions of pounds of savings. Kent alone, £63 million of savings. And again,
and yet
that's
council
been in
tax
less
is
than
going
6
to go
months.
up.
Well, that's because the vast majority, and this is the part that voters do understand, that the vast majority of the budgets of local councils is statutory, of which councillors of any stripe have absolutely no say nor influence on the parameters of.
Reform leaders of West Northamptonshire, Durham County Council, Staffordshire County Council, they're all having to consider raising council tax to the maximum. In Durham, before the local elections, they were promising on leaflets that Reform would fight for lower council tax. Yeah,
so Victoria, I've spent time in all of those councils, and it is just a fact of the matter that the vast majority of the budgets of those councils, the Reform councillors or any other councillors have no say over the parameters of the recipients of that social care. And if you go to the IFS's own website, when central government, when Westminster decides how much money any of those councils get to fund social care, those vital services, they do so literally on the assumption that those councils will raise council tax by the amounts that we're talking about. So until Reform is in power in Westminster, which is obviously what we're working towards, reform will be unable to change the parameters. But
okay.
I will say this, at least reform is not falling into bankruptcy like many Tory and Labour councils have.
I want to...
So you guys get the gist of kind of what's going on here. The link is in the description so you can watch this entire interview in full. I'll leave that link in the description. But what my frustration is here and why this video is so funny to me, you saw him fall apart multiple times and refuse to answer the questions that Victoria Derbyshire was asking. What the bone that I have to pick with when I hear reform and people who are fans of reform is, why is it that the British public and even the American public as well, for my American audience, why is it that we consistently allow ourselves to be fooled by these people and believe what it is that they say? We've got Donald Trump who in office right now, and he ran his election on affordability and bringing down the cost of things, reducing inflation. Right now, affordability is not down, and he hasn't reduced inflation either. Right here in the United Kingdom, Reform are on this apparent surge where, you know, they're getting a lot of people that want to vote for them for the next general election. And the leader of that party is a man by the name of Nigel Farage. Now, you don't have to have a long memory to understand that Nigel Farage, this is someone who has consistently misled the British public, and we're really going to allow him to do it again and for him to get away with it. Let me give you guys a bit of context behind what it is I'm saying. Farage, if you remember Farage with Brexit, this is a guy who told us so many lies, made so many promises, and then when the deed was done, he distanced himself from so much. Let me break it down for you guys. Farage is closely linked and widely discredited the Leave campaign, claim that Brexit would free up £350 million a week to fund the NHS. Now, the figure was a clear misuse of official statistics as it ignored the UK's rebate and Europe's funds being returned. Farage later disowned this pledge, saying it was a mistake. Okay? Farage and the Leave campaign falsely promised that leaving the EU would instantly reduce immigration significantly and improve public services like healthcare with extra funding, which did not happen as promised. Now, we sit here now and Nigel Farage's head of policy, Zia Yusuf, that we can see on the screen now, he sits down in front of us and he speaks about immigration being the key to be able to free up funds and free up money so that we can improve things here in the country. We also see Nigel Farage has spoken consistently about wanting to change up the way that the NHS works to probably go to a system that aligns more with what it is that the United States of America does. These are people who lie. They lie to us, the British public, in hopes that we're just going to fall for the lie and we're not going to, number one, do our own research, and then number two, on top of that, not going to look into the claims that it is that they make. But when they have to sit in front of someone who knows their stuff, like a Victoria Derbyshire, or like a credible journalist, or someone who knows what they're talking about, and they have to justify all of these claims that it is that they make, they do exactly what it is that Zie Yusuf done in this video. They fall apart, they refuse to answer questions, and they do what a typical politician does, and they dance around the question that it is that's being asked instead of answering the question directly, which then prompts the host, like a Victoria Derbyshire, to turn around and say, we've got limited time, can you please answer the question directly? This is the problem when you believe liars like Reform, like Nigel Farage, and even like Zie Yusuf. Reform do not have a plan. The exact same way Donald Trump did not have a plan for the United States of America. Joe Biden wasn't perfect. He definitely was not perfect. But America right now is in a worse place as a result of Americans falling for Donald Trump's lies once again. The same thing is happening right here in the UK with Nigel Farage and Reform. We're falling for lies. We're getting duped. And guess what? It's only going to make things worse for us. And the kicker for me, the thing that makes it even worse for me is this. The majority of people only want to vote for Nigel Farage purely because of the racist policies that it is that they have. Same with what happened in the United States of America with Donald Trump. But we're seeing what's happening. The same people who voted for Donald Trump are the same ones that are being hurt the most by his policies. The poor and the middle class. The same thing going on right here in the United Kingdom with Reform and Nigel Farage. The same people that would vote for Nigel Farage are the people that will be affected the most by his policies. And it's just sad to see because it consistently happens over and over and over again. Reform don't have a plan. Nigel Farage does not have a plan. And that's the reason why Zia Yusuf can't answer a question straight up and falls apart every single time he's asked a question. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section on this clip. Like I said, I'll leave the link in the description to the full video so you guys can check it out as and when you want. If you guys want to be able to check out and see unbiased news and you can see news that is not swayed in a way that leans more to the right or leans more to the left, but you can see in a perspective that you want to see, click the link in the description below this video and it's going to give you 40% off ground news. Okay, and you can see politics, how it is that you like to receive it yourself. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys in the next clip.